Hello! Today we're talking compassion, so welcome to our Body Love series. This is a series that we've been doing for maybe a month now, so if you scroll back in the group and you just search Body Love, you'll see 4 or 5 other trainings that we've done, and this training is just to shed some light on what it truly means to be well, from the whole person perspective, from the inside out, and how to really fall in love with your body without thinking, I'll finally love myself when I lose 30 pounds or when I'm strong enough to do yoga, or instead of placing the I'll love myself when sometime in the future, just falling in love with who you are now, because we know, experientially I know this, and I've watched this in so many of my clients, the minute that you begin to love yourself and love the process and feel gratitude for who you are and all you have, that is when the magic happens. That's when you start to see the transformation that you've been craving, or that's when you start to really living as if you are a person worthy of all kinds of value and all kinds of love and support and nourishment and energy. So that is what this series is all about. Today we're talking about compassion, and we'll move specifically into self-compassion. I've been doing research for months and months now about self-compassion and how it's just astounding how powerful little practices can be, and that's what we'll kind of conclude this training with 3 little practices, not little, simple practices that you can do every single day, every single morning to bring more compassion and self-compassion into your life. Because here are a couple things that we know for sure. Research is showing more and more conclusively, which I think is so cool that people are measuring this, that people who are compassionate with themselves are far more likely to not only be like outwardly compassionate to others, but their partners rate them as better partners within their relationships. They're less obsessive and aggressive and far more empathetic and understanding. Also, people who practice self-compassion tend to be far more resilient. So the workshop that I'm leading at a yoga studio over the weekend, this coming weekend, we're doing goal setting with it. And I think that just the neat part about thinking about self-compassion and goal setting put together is if the two work together, goal setting doesn't feel like this daunting thing anymore. It's actually, it's something that becomes really exciting, because you realize that part of self-compassion is realizing that failure is part of growth. So rather than thinking, oh, I fell off the wagon 20 times, you think, oh, those are all opportunities for learning. So the next time I feel like I mess up, I screw up, it's not like a black and white thing where I've fallen off some wagon and I can't get back on. Instead, it's that this is another opportunity to learn. This is another opportunity to grow. It's all part of the process. So you have more of a process-oriented outlook rather than focusing on only the results or only what you lack. You also gain all kinds of awareness, and that awareness helps you to realize what hasn't worked in the past, so you can finally kick that ish aside. I can't tell you how many people that I talk to who say, oh yeah, I know that if I just gave up sugar or stopped drinking wine at night, then I could lose weight. And the thing is, if it were just that easy, we'd all do the thing that is stopping us, right? But instead, or I've also heard people say, oh yeah, when I did Whole30, I felt the healthiest I've felt. And I ask, what happened afterwards or what? And they said, oh, I could never stick to that forever. It's like, well, then it doesn't actually work. So for something to actually resonate with us and stick with us, it's not something that we do one time, or we do for a month, or we do for 90 days, 60 days, 21 days, whatever it is. It's something that we can pull into our lives and we can stick with. So part of both self-compassion and the goal-setting process that I'm introducing to this group is it's recognizing that when you can finally close your eyes and get still with yourself and say, that thing that I keep thinking, if I would only go back to it, if I would only do that again, I'd lose the weight, or I'd live the life, or I'd find the job, or whatever. I'd get the thing that I think that I want. What is actually true is this is my core problem. This is what's not working for me. So for example, for the people who tell me if I could, when I give up sugar again, or when I give up the wine, or when I go back to Whole30, then, I'll be all set. the underlying thing there is, so first, why do we think that sugar or wine or the food that's off Whole30 is our problem? Two, what's our emotional thing, our emotional stuckness, our emotional reliance on the thing that we think we need to restrict or move away from? And three, is there another piece of it that we're missing? So for most of the people that I work with and the women who move through my breakthrough program, what we kind of realize together is that weight loss and wellness and body love, separately and all together, have so much more to do with how we feel about ourselves and how we treat ourselves internally and externally than it does about the food we're eating or the workouts that we're doing. Throughout your lifetime, you will do so many different workouts, and throughout your lifetime, if you watch, there will be so many different food trends that seem to work, and they're all, transformational pictures. But if you really want to live in a body that you love and weigh what you want, your first step is to get quiet with yourself and to just become aware of what is true for you. So becoming aware of what is stuck, what kind of stuckness that we have, and what we've gotten attached to, like attached to thinking I need to be a size 4 because I was a size 4 when I was 16. By the way, I don't think I was a size 4 except when I was like 12 and 22, and those have very different stories to them. But recognizing like why we think we need to be some particular size, and also why we think that giving up something, restricting something, doing a particular workout program is best for us. And that's not that either of those things are wrong, but becoming really aware with what we believe, both about our fate and about ourselves, and then being so compassionate with ourselves. And what I mean by that is being very honest. So it's not about brushing things under the rug or saying, oh, my doctor says I have high cholesterol, I don't need to lose weight, or I don't need to watch what I eat because it's all about loving my body. Part of loving your body is being honest. If you feel like you've got some sort of thing that you lean on to feel whole. I know part of mine is coffee. I drink coffee so that I have the energy to do the things that I like, and a lot of it is mental. And I think that's something I'll continue to work through. But, if food is something you go to at the end of the day because you just feel exhausted and you want to feel good about something, or you want to feel like you can sink in and relax, noticing that is the first step, and then being really compassionate with yourself. And instead of stepping into judgment or having expectations that you'll change immediately, part of it is just to say, I guess I'm seeing that truth about myself. I'm seeing that I lean on food for comfort or for celebration or for whatever it is, or lean on workouts to punish myself from the weekend. Noticing whatever is true for you and just being with that is a really hard thing to do that very few people will do. But if you can learn to do that, then you'll realize that you don't need all these external things outside yourself. You don't need some big workout program, or you don't need a particular diet to kind of keep you contained. What you need is that emotional awareness and that sense of compassion built from the inside out. And it takes time, and it's not to say that workout programs and having an idea about where the direction your nutrition needs to take and how food responds to your body are not helpful, because they are so helpful. But it's just to say that there's no one-size-fits-all plan for all bodies. And I truly believe that if we could be more compassionate with ourselves when it comes to body image, body awareness, and just how we treat ourselves, what we put into our bodies, and how we expel things from our bodies, I think that we would not only be a healthier culture, of course, but we would treat each other with so much more kindness. If we could stop judging ourselves, we would stop judging other people so severely. There is a reason I work with a lot of new moms, like brand new moms, and there's a big reason that new moms feel so judged. I think it's because we're in this kind of internal spin where we're taking care of this tiny being, and we're trying to just do the very best that we can for them and for ourselves, that we start comparing ourselves. We start doing the Instagram scroll and comparing ourselves and judging ourselves and thinking, am I doing the right thing? So we project that judgment onto other people, even with the best of intentions. I I try not to judge anybody, but I know when I was in that new mom space, I felt so vulnerable that it was very hard not to also project that judgment onto other people when I wasn't careful, when I wasn't noticing, and when I was super tired. So all in all, the reason self-compassion has become such an important platform for me personally is because I really believe in my heart of hearts that is, if we can take care of ourselves, not just in the things we do, in the actions, like self-care is wonderful, but also if in each moment of our day we're telling ourselves certain things and we're labeling things as good or bad or productive or lazy, and if we can be kinder to ourselves internally, we will be able to be so much more present and honest and authentic and gentle and graceful and direct with the people around us, and it will just ripple out into the world. Okay, so I'll step away from that platform now and we'll talk about the amazing science behind compassion, and let me know if this gets boring for you or if you want to learn more. All this research that I found, which has been done fairly recently, like within the past 10 years at most, shows that people who have a compassionate lifestyle, and this is something that I talk about in my breakthrough program, Deepak Chopra has about 7 attributes that he lists about a compassionate lifestyle, and what I do is I flip them on their, not on their head, I guess I turn them kind of sideways or do a 180 and show how those compassionate approaches, like being an empathetic listener or reaching out to someone when they clearly show that they need help and releasing judgment, things like that, if we turn those inward, that's a self-compassionate lifestyle. If we can release our judgment about ourselves, if we can ask for help and support, oof, that one's hard, isn't it? If we can, all of those things, if we can be more self-compassionate. But the science behind it and what Chopra's studies have shown, and there have been Harvard studies done on this, James Doty, if you just Google his TED Talk, it's pretty cool that people who live a compassionate lifestyle, so we'll step away from the self-compassion and just talk about compassion for everyone. People who live a compassionate lifestyle, they live longer. Their longevity can sometimes be up to 2-fold. Crazy. They have less heart disease. They fight less like chronic long-term autoimmune illnesses. And so I began to think, that's amazing. I believe it, but why? And a big part of what James Doty in particular actually talks about is compassion and fear are kind of 2 sides of almost of the same coin, in that when we are in a place of fear and a place of ego, I will even go out on a limb to say we are in this fight or flight place. We're in the, or freeze. And we're in a place where we believe that our survival is at risk. So if we are living in a place where we're just really anxious, we're really hard on ourselves, we're doing a lot of internal criticism, and internal criticism often happens because we're afraid of external criticism. So we tell ourselves all the bad stuff. We say, no, you can't, to ourselves before someone else can. And that's a protective mechanism of the ego. But if we're living in that place, our nervous system is at this fight, flight, or freeze place. Our ability to heal ourselves goes down, our heart rate, our blood pressure is higher. So if you counter that with a place of awareness and presence and peace and compassion, and it's not to say that this stuff isn't hard work. I think meditation, that I have a master's in religious studies where we really studied meditation, and I think it's the hardest work I've done in my whole life, other than labor and being patient with a 2-year-old. I mean, those 3 things right on par with one another. In that it's really hard to look at your own stuff and be really honest about what's going on with you, especially when they're like ugly emotions like jealousy or anger is one I have so much trouble addressing and being with. But when you can do that, and when you can see yourself for who you truly are, no matter how you would otherwise label that person, you know, good, bad, or ugly, if you can be with yourself and gently move through the emotions that have kept you stuck, move through and past the thought patterns that keep you in this self-sabotaging place, if you can do that, not only do you actually like break through self-sabotaging patterns and live the life that you want to live and up-level your spiritual and mental and emotional and physical life, life. But you also bring your nervous system back to this beautiful base level where you can heal yourself, you can digest food better. And I mean, there's there's a lot of gross stuff I could get into with like bile and weight loss and hydration, but when you're able to digest food, I mean, that's a quarter of the weight loss battle. It's just to be able to kind of have your body naturally cleanse itself without going on an actual cleanse. But I just think that that's so neat that compassion actually allows our bodies to be in a more neutral place where we're not terrified that we'll die, and our ego isn't suggesting that that our survival is at risk if we don't protect ourselves. But we also get out of that fear space. And fear, I think, especially as we grow into adults, when we're, I think about how often I talk through with Max about different, like he was afraid of a shadow because Daniel Tiger was afraid of a shadow in some episode. I'm so mad that we watched that one. But we have to talk through his fears and how he's afraid and being afraid of things you can't see. And it just makes me realize how fearful I have become as an adult of like making career shifts or making a move across the country. Just our innate fear of the unknown, because if we know what's going to happen, if we have something predictable in front of us, at least, if nothing else, at least we can predict the meh of our future, right? Like at least we know what's coming. But when we step beyond our comfort zone and we step into like goal setting or having like a new way that you want to live, whether it's being happier with your body or changing the way you eat or embracing more self-care on a more regular basis, all of that is beautiful and necessary for a whole life, like a life of wholeness. But it's a little scary to like step outside the Netflix routine and step onto your yoga mat instead, or meditate for a few minutes before bed when you're used to just like plopping down and falling asleep. It's scary to step into that. So if we can do that in a compassionate way, it helps the transition and the transformation, but it also makes us so much healthier. It helps us to sleep better. It helps us to live longer as, dare I say, better people, as more attentive, kind, empathetic, present people. So I feel like you could continue to Google the science on self-compassion. It's something we dig really deep into in my breakthrough program. But if you want to start just exploring more self-compassion in the next couple of days, 3 really easy things that you can do, really simple things that you could do right at the beginning of your day. And these only amplify, like your feelings, your emotions, your results will only amplify if you do this while journaling, but you don't have to. It's to begin the day, like before your feet hit the floor, or maybe if you're like me and you wake up when your kid starts calling for you, before you have breakfast or something, just spend 3 minutes conjuring up, thinking up all of the things that you're grateful for. And they don't have to be these wildly grand things. Like oftentimes I wake up and I think, I am so grateful to be warm right now. Or my kid's laugh is just the best. I'm sure like your kid's laugh is the best. And I'm so grateful that I can hear that. Or when I'm not particularly, there's one day a week where I teach a couple more classes than other days, and it's kind of, it's more emotionally draining. So I think about how I'm grateful for slow mornings. Just little things that you're grateful for. And if you just spend 3 minutes, maybe just thinking of 3 things, if that's all you've got time for, but just feeling into gratitude, because that moves us from the lack, from like thinking, oh, I need to lose the 30 pounds and I can't even get started, or oh, I need to get started on applying for new jobs and that's such a chore, or whatever it is. Instead of being in a space of lack, you're just grateful for what you have. And goodness knows that like if today was your last day on earth, I bet you would just want to take what you have to heart and to soak it all up rather than focusing on what you don't have. The second thing to do is to, and this sounds so simple, I know it sounds so simple, but to drink more water, and particularly right away in the morning. I have warm water with lemon, or I have this lemon ginger tea that I fell in love with. But just the ritual of that, not only does it help to alkaline your body, which is just an easier way for your body to live. And again, there's tons of research you could look into on that. But for me, it helps me to slow down. And instead of diving into coffee and feeling kind of like acidic and metallic, and granted, I drink a lot of coffee throughout my day, but I start with water. And I drink water through the afternoon, hot water, because it helps me to slow down. It's really hard to chug hot water. And just being present is such a hard thing, but such a gift in this life right now when we have like instant gratification at our fingertips. We can call anybody, text anybody, read the news immediately, scroll into social media. And that's another thing. I don't pick up my phone anymore in the mornings. I read a book actually while I'm breastfeeding. And that has really helped my brain to slow down as well. So making sure that you're drinking enough darn water throughout the day. Maybe even just setting a timer and drinking a glass of water every other hour, something like that, because that will help you continue to feel fresh. We need more oxygen in our bodies, and I won't go into a thing right now about how real food, real plants, things that, you know, grow from the earth really help our brains to think more clearly and thus help us to be kinder to ourselves and to live with more compassion. But water alone will just help you to continue to feel more energized than if you wouldn't be drinking water. It'll help you to feel full when so often our body, we feel as if we're hungry when we're really dehydrated, because we can get a lot of hydration from real food as well. But just that ritual of slowing down, and it just makes me aware of how I want to rush and how I want to get the things done and how I'm so A-type, and really trying to move away from that perfectionism. So instead of diving into my day with all of this kind of perfectionism clothed as ambition, and it's really ego clothed in ambition, I can slow down and just be with myself, with my body, with my kid, with my husband. It's a lovely way to be, again, even if it's only 3 minutes. So let's say you have 3 minutes of gratitude. Maybe it's while you're brushing your teeth and looking yourself in the mirror. 3 minutes just sipping on something hot that's not coffee. Resetting your body, your mind, and your spirit. And the third thing is to move. And I'm going to say again, only for 3 minutes. And I suggest, just to begin with, moving with your breath. And the reason behind this is that when we can move with our breath, our tissues hold our issues. It's such a huge part of, when I was personal training, something I noticed is a lot of my sessions felt like therapy sessions, in that I was supposed to be the therapist and count reps. It's a hard job. I'm serious. It's hard to both listen with, actively listen with empathy, and to also not wear somebody out because we're on the 20th rep when they were only meant to do 12. But when we can move, we reset patterns in our brain. We reset neurological patterns, but we also, it's like we're telling our bodies, you matter. I see you, I hear you, I feel you, and you matter. And we don't have this relationship where our head is cut off from our bodies. It's all one. So when you're able to breathe with movement, when you're able to perhaps inhale arms overhead, exhale into a squat, or just exhale hands to heart, just something, it doesn't have to be hard. It can be so simple. But those simple movements where you're just moving and breathing, maybe even running with a breath, inhaling for 4 steps, exhaling for 4 steps, it helps you to connect, literally connect your head and your lungs, or head and your heart, but also to connect your mind and your body and get out of all the to-do lists of what you have to do in the future, all the shit that happened the day before, and just sink into what is real right now. And if you're able to do any of these things with a journal, if you're able to journal for just a little bit, just sharing with your own notebook what you're grateful for, or your aspirations for the day, or any just like free flow journaling, it can also bring a newfound awareness. And it's again that linking of mind and body, where if we're able to bring all of our swirling thoughts onto paper, you often will reveal to yourself so much wisdom and insight that just comes from you, and sometimes feels like it's breathed through or written through you. It's very, very neat. But I hope that those 3 things help you tremendously. We'll be talking more about self-compassion as the month continues. It's a fun theme for February, but it's a true theme, a real theme that I believe could make such a difference, not just for individuals, but for the ripple effect of the world around them. I mentioned a couple times my breakthrough program. If you are interested in learning more about that program, it's a comprehensive whole person, I hesitate to say system because it is really a self-healing, self-transformation system with group coaching. So I give a lot of one-on-one coaching in a group atmosphere, and we meet online, so you don't have to exist in St. Paul, Minnesota, although that would be fun. But if you want to learn more about that, just drop a note below, and I'll send you a message with more information. And finally, I think what I'll post below too is just a yoga series that I had actually originally made for the breakthrough program. So I'll just post that below just in case you want to experiment with moving with your breath. And I believe I have a couple yoga flows that are just 10 minutes long, so you could break that up in 3 minutes, or you could do it 3 times through for 30 minutes. But movement with breath is so powerful, whether it's yoga or strength training or Tabata or bar or running. That can be just such a powerful element to add to your workout routine if you already do that, or to ease into a workout routine if you know that moving your body more would feel better through your heart and your soul. And I mean, it does wonders for my mental health, especially in these cold winter months. So I'm so happy that you've joined me, whether it's live or in the recording, and I would love to know any questions that you have, or anything, maybe just one thing that really rang true for you today, one thing that hit home that you will either motivates you to bring more compassion into your own life, more self-compassion into your own life, or one thing that you'll definitely try tomorrow morning when you wake up. So thanks for being here. I'll see you again next week at the same time. And this self-compassion, be kind to yourself so that you can be kind to others. I think that could be our motto for the next 2 months, right? All right, friends, I will see you again soon. I will talk to you later.